We're live.
Hey, what's up? This is Flex Wheeler, and we have another edition of Flex for Life. My special guest today is Captain America, Randy Couture. Um, if you don't know Randy, you've just been living under a rock. Served in the U.S. Army. I think you were a military police, right, Randy?
No, I was an air traffic controller. They trained me as an air
Aircraft traffic controller.
Yeah.
Did that for a few years. Fought in the UFC, the first man to hold 2 consecutive belts and 2 weight classes in the UFC. Actor, uh, have one of the best training facilities for MMA. Mostly everybody, when they come to Vegas, they go and they train at his gym at Couture's. Randy, thank you so much for being a special guest here. I appreciate it.
My pleasure.
Now, what got you into wanting to serve in the military?
Necessity. I had a child on the way with my high school sweetheart, and I wasn't going to be a deadbeat like my dad, so I had to support that family. And I had currently walked on at Washington State University. They still had a wrestling program there. This was in the 80s. I graduated from high school in 81.
I was 83, so right behind you.
So yeah, to support a new family. Spent 6 years in the Army in that uniform. Very formative time in my life, and I think I look at the world in a particular way because of that experience.
Wow. Now, you started wrestling back in high school, right?
Started wrestling in junior high. I was 6th grader. My best friend Bobby Stevenson, his brothers were wrestling in the junior high program, and Bobby and I went to watch his brothers wrestle. And they thought it was funny and threw us in the novice tournament at the district meet. Neither one of us had wrestled a day in our lives. And I pinned a kid with a headlock and got my first bloody nose. And I was hooked, man. I rolled into 7th grade the next year. The PE teacher, Coach Caspear, was also the wrestling coach. And he remembered me from that novice tournament. He said, "Hey, wrestling starts next week. I'll see you there." And I turned out, and I've been wrestling ever since.
Wow. So you wrestled through college, also, right?
I went in the service right out of high school. Was a one-time state champ from Washington in 1981 at 168 pounds, and then walked on at Washington State. Came home over Thanksgiving. Didn't make the varsity squad, so came home over Thanksgiving. Took my former girlfriend, who I dated my whole senior year, out on a date while we were home that weekend over Thanksgiving. And she's calling me 3 weeks later, "Hey, I'm pregnant, having a baby, whether you're in or not." And obviously made the right choice. We got married that February, and college was done for me. And I thought wrestling was done for me, frankly, but little did I know. Signing up the Army in the peak of the Cold War, there were 5 million soldiers stationed in Central Europe. And for morale, they had huge sports programs, and wrestling was certainly one of those. So I ended up back on a wrestling mat. I won a couple of U.S. Army Europe championships. That got me a chance to try out for the All-Army wrestling team and wrestle for the Army against the other services, which happened to be an Olympic qualifier for the 88 Olympics. I qualified as a soldier for that Olympic team in 1988.
You were Greco-Roman, correct? Or
I specialized in Greco. Military guys gravitated towards Greco. It was tough for us to compete against all those freestylers that were getting professional coaching at the collegiate level. So we focused primarily on Greco, which I had never been exposed to as a kid. I'd never wrestled it. Ended up on a Greco mat by accident, and it became my favorite style. I won 4 national titles in Greco. I won my first world championship at the CISA Military World Championships in 1988 in Greco.
Greco goes back to like the beginning of time, right?
The ancient games.
Yes.
The ancient games were all about protecting your little fiefdom, your town, your village, from the neighboring tribes. So those were combative type events: riding a horse, running a marathon, pugilism, and grappling, or pancrase is what it was called back then. Those were the 4 sports in the ancient games, in the original games. And wearing that wreath, that was a big deal. You were the guy they were going to rely on to protect you when you were invaded. And that's how the games were founded. That's what it was all about back then.
Now, after you got out of the Army, how soon after that did you start fighting in the UFC?
Get out of the Army in 1988. I was in from 82 to 88. I got a scholarship to wrestle at Oklahoma State after making that 88 Olympic team as an alternate. All these college coaches that didn't recruit me out of high school as a one-time state champ were like, who the hell is that kid? Where did he come from? And so the phone started ringing, and I had to make a decision. Was I going to stay in the Army and keep chasing the Olympic dream that I was chasing at that time and supporting my family? I had 2 kids by that time. My daughter was actually born in Germany while we were stationed over there. My son, Ryan, who ended up fighting for about 12 years, mostly for Bellator, was born before I left for basic training. I had to make a big decision. Was I going to stay the course and keep doing what I was doing? Was I going to take a risk, get out of the service and pursue that 4-year degree in wrestling at the collegiate level, at the Division I level? And my coach, Floyd Winter, who's one of my good friends to this day, encouraged me to get out, to go get that degree, that I was crazy if I didn't take that scholarship. And I had a couple of offers, Bakersfield, Clemson, Southern Illinois, and Oklahoma State. And I ended up choosing to go to Oklahoma State.
Wow. Now, how long were you there?
4 years. I got a degree in foreign language and literature. I specialized in German after being stationed in Germany. That was
Spike C. Dutch.
really the only thing I wanted to, ich kann ein bisschen Deutsch. That was the only thing I knew I really wanted to study because I suffered from the language barrier while I was over there. So I had a German landlord. I chose to live off base on the economy. I wrestled for a German club team while I was there. After the first year, they're like, no more English. So I learned to speak a lot of slang, but I couldn't read or write anything. And so when I rolled in Oklahoma State, that's what I wanted to focus on was German.
Now, after your 4 years in college, what did you get into then?
I got hired right out of college in 1992 to coach at Oregon State University. I was the assistant wrestling coach there for 7 years. And
Wow.
it was there that I found MMA. One of my college athletes brought this videotape over and said, oh, man, you got to see this. And we watched Don Fry competing in this UFC. It was UFC 8 or 9, I think. And Don and I were teammates at Oklahoma State. His senior year was my freshman year.
Is that right? Wow.
I knew Don well, so I was like, what the heck is this? And was immediately intrigued by the sport. Saw the application of years and years and years of wrestling training in that venue. And it was different back then. This was 96, summer, August of 96, when I saw this video. And then I run into a friend at the Vegas Invitational Collegiate Tournament. Oregon State was wrestling in the tournament, and I was there as the assistant coach. One of my buddies drove over from California to watch the tournament. He was another avid wrestler, and he's like, oh, man, you see that UFC stuff? You should do that. You'd be good at that. I'm like, hell, I have no idea. So, I know how to get the application. I'll get you an application, and I'll send it in for you. I'm like, all right. And that's what he did. He went home after that tournament. He sent in the application. They put him off. They said, we've got enough wrestlers. Coleman and Fry were both competing at that time.
Yeah.
We want more exotic martial artists, but we'll put him on our alternate list. So I went on the alternate list. This was December of 96. And then out of the blue in spring of 97, I get this phone call getting ready to go to the Pan Am Championships in Puerto Rico and represent the U.S. in the Pan Am Games. Not the games, the championship. The games are every 4 years. The championship is every year. But so, I was in great wrestling shape 3 weeks out from the Pan Ams, and they call me up. They say, hey, you're on our alternate list. We got a heavyweight tournament in 3 weeks. We're having trouble filling a spot. Do you want to fight? And I'm like, yeah, let's do it. So I literally took that first fight for UFC 13 on short notice and went to Puerto Rico, wrestled, got a silver medal in those Pan Ams. And then on the way back from Puerto Rico, I jumped out of the plane not jumped literally, but
Yeah.
we landed in Atlanta. I got out of the plane in Atlanta. I didn't go all the way back to Oregon. I spent 5 days on the ground in Atlanta, training and getting ready for my first UFC 13.
Yeah. Times were really different back then. There was less rules, everything then. So
Yeah.
your first championship you won was a heavyweight, right?
Yeah, I entered the heavyweight tournament. Was still a tournament back then. I fought twice that night. Two big guys, Tony Hollema from Finland and Stephen Graham from South Carolina. Huge guys, both of them. I'm like, what the hell did I get myself into? But I won. I ended up winning the tournament, which put me in the next super fight against Vitor Belfort. The winner of the Belfort fight was going to put me in. Whoever won that fight was getting a shot at the title. So literally 4 fights in, and I'm fighting for the world title in the heavyweight division for the UFC. And I'm like, what in the hell just happened?
It's part of your destiny.
Yeah, it worked out.
Now, when did you open up your gym?
2007 rather, not 97. You got me stuck in the 90s. Yeah, 2007 here in Vegas. I had opened our first gym up in Gresham, Oregon with Dan Henderson and Robert Follis and Matt Linland, called Team Quest. And Team Quest is still operating to this day. Matt runs that gym now. Danny moved to Temecula and started Team Hendo. I moved to Vegas and started Extreme Couture MMA. And Matt runs Team Quest still to this day up in Gresham. Unfortunately, Robert's not with us anymore. Robert worked and trained with me at Extreme Couture for quite a while after I moved to Vegas. He came on board a little bit later, but yeah, that's a whole nother story. But
Yeah. Now, you donate a lot of your time to different organizations. Could you tell us a little bit about that?
I'm involved in 2 organizations, honestly. The first is the Extreme Couture GI Foundation. I started my own 501c3 back in 07, 08. In 06, I got to go to Iraq. I spent 12 days on the ground in Iraq in a combat zone as a former Army soldier. That was a very, very interesting trip for me. Saw a lot of men and women doing the things I trained to do and never had to do on that trip. And came back in 06, and in 07, I got to go to Walter Reed and Bethesda in DC. And we did a big barbecue at the Fisher House. It was me, Don Fry, and Ken Shamrock, through a buddy of mine, Mike Davis. We put on this big barbecue for all the caregivers and a bunch of soldiers fresh off the battlefield. And they let Don, myself, and Ken walk the wards in the hospital and meet a bunch of soldiers that were getting fitted for prosthetics, learning how to walk again, going through all their surgeries after being wounded. And it was there hearing these horror stories of the financial woes that all these men and women were dealing with, both in dealing with the VA and in dealing with Uncle Sam. That was infuriating, frankly, to me. Came back from that trip and we filed for 501c3 status and ended up creating a nonprofit to raise some funds and awareness about our wounded combat veterans and what they go through when they transition back to civilian life. So we've been doing that now for 17 years, providing some financial opportunity, some counseling services, and running a bunch of these events all year long to bring our vets together and raise awareness about what they go through after they've been wounded. The other one I'm involved in is called MVP, vetsandplayers.org, Emerging Vets and Players.
I know about that one.
That one's a lot of fun. You probably know Jay Glazier, Nate Boyer. They came up with this idea. Nate was a Green Beret and aspiring football player playing at University of Texas while he was still active duty, by the way.
Wow.
He wanted to make it into the NFL. Jay took him under his wing and kind of got him amped up and tuned up to go to the combines. And Nate ended up going to the combines and making the team, making it with the Seahawks for a season. And in that experience, me and Jay ran a company called MMA Athletics for years, teaching and training combatives to a lot of football players, lacrosse players, even some baseball and basketball players. But mostly football, some rugby players as well. Basically through the mindset of a fighter and the combatives, learning how to use your hands and make everything violent. Most football players don't think of football as a combative sport, but it absolutely is.
Sure.
And
Very violent.
so through teaching them bona fide combatives through MMA, we make better football players, better rugby players, and the first thing you change is right between their ears. Most of those guys have been told how great they are their whole lives. And then my little ass starts knocking them down and they can't get up off the mat and they can't figure it out. They're 280 pounds and my 210-pound butt's wearing them out. They can't figure it out. So they buy in pretty quickly. And we've made a lot of very, very good football players. I think Jared Allen was one of the first guys we worked with. And the year after working with us, I think he had 16 sacks that next year and, became an all-pro. And, Lane Johnson for the Eagles, another Okie, another kid from Oklahoma, done a great job since working with us. And there's a huge list of guys that we've had the chance and a bunch of teams that we've had the chance to embed with and work on with combatives. And Nate was kind of the pinnacle of that, getting Nate, as a long snapper fired up to go try out and then have him make the team was pretty cool.
Yeah, I want to give a shout out to the MVP Las Vegas chapter. We meet every Friday there at your gym. Definitely appreciate that. Now, what do you do to stay in shape? I mean, you're always in shape. You're doing movies and everything. What is life like after being so competitive? How was that change? Did you struggle with that?
I was very fortunate. When I walked away from that Army uniform, my next purpose was built in, get that 4-year degree, win a national championship with Oklahoma State and wrestling for Oklahoma State. So I didn't flounder at all. I knew exactly where I was going. And that transition can be a big issue for a lot of guys, whether they're a pro ball player or a soldier. It doesn't matter which uniform you walk out of, that's a huge piece of your identity. And so navigating that transition can be a big problem for a lot of guys. Adrenaline seeking, self-medicating, whole bunch of issues with both our vets and the players. And the players, frankly, don't get enough recognition for what they go through when they walk away from their sport as well. We all know the stats with our soldiers. I don't think anybody's compiled the stats with the athletes that struggle in transition as well. That's kind of where all that came from. I do a lot of circuit training to stay in shape. I can't grapple. I would love to be competing in grappling, but what led me to retire is the disc and the neck are just worn out. And I don't want to have a fusion. Everybody I know that's had a fusion has no range of motion and they're still in pain. So why do you want to do that? That ultimately led me to walking away from MMA when I did at 47. I figured I'd done enough. I didn't want to keep messing around and grinding out camps and then have an injury happen that was going to affect the quality of the rest of my life. I had acting and my business, clothing line, the business, the gym, all that other stuff going on. So it wasn't like I was going to flounder in that transition either. I knew exactly where I wanted to go, what I wanted to do, where I was going to be competitive, and what was going to keep me busy. And that's what finding that new purpose is a huge, huge piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, definitely.
I have a question on that one because you're the only one who is confident enough to come online with a tank top on, so we got to give you credit for that one. But let's say you had a day where it was a easy day and you just had to worry about yourself that day. You want to get your food in and your workouts in. Can you take us through like a day like that?
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably up by between 8 or 9 in the morning, usually. Not an early riser, but I'm not going to sleep all day either. Generally at the gym, the dead spot in the gym is usually from 12 to 2 or 3.
Yeah.
So I try to hit that time in the gym when there's nobody else in there really. Not a lot of classes going on. It's mostly privates and private training at that time. And so I'll go in and bang out my circuit. I created a metabolic circuit. I kind of did this, I trained myself all through fighting. I didn't really, me, Danny, Matt, we both wrestled at a very, very high level, had a lot of coaches, through college, through high school, to all the wrestling levels that we wrestled through. So we had a pretty good idea what a good program looked like and what a bad program looked like, to be honest. So I did a lot of that myself. I came up with that grappling circuit that you can still find online to this day from back in the day, for strength conditioning, for fighting, for wrestling. And this circuit that I do now is an 8-station, 2 push exercises, 2 pull exercises, 2 core exercises, and 2 leg exercises. I can amalgamate some version of that circuit anywhere I'm at. Every hotel now has a small gym. If they've got dumbbells, I'm good to go. I can bang out that circuit with dumbbells if that's all they have. So I use that circuit a lot. Try to get through that at least 3 or 4 times a week. I don't rest. I try to get in there, get it all set up, bang through that circuit from start to finish as quickly as I can without rest. The fastest I've done it in so far is 22 minutes. So that's that goal, trying to move more weight in less time. What's that tell you? You're getting stronger. Your conditioning is improving. Your anaerobic and aerobic capacity are improving through that circuit training. If I had my way, I'd do grappling. I'd still be wrestling, but the neck just won't take it.
I have 3 questions for you. The first one being, what's really the mindset difference or the physicality difference between a wrestler and a boxer? I know we had the situation with Floyd, and his dabbling with someone from was from a different world. What is the big difference in skill set and mind in terms of someone?
Honestly, the mindset is very, very similar. Similar in wrestling, similar in MMA, similarly in boxing. They're individual combative sports. You're walking up in that ring or out in the center of that wrestling mat by yourself to face your opponent, to hopefully solve the problems that guy poses and solve them appropriately. And that's what fighting is. It's problem solving at its finest. Boxing, no different, just different rules of engagement. Obviously, the sole goal in boxing is to punch that guy in the head or the body until he can't take it anymore. Knock him out if possible. Remove him from his consciousness. Similar goal in MMA, but the rules of engagement are a little broader. I can take him down and punch him and elbow him and submit him on the ground or on our feet. Punching, kicking, elbows, all the modalities from all the striking sports are all available to you in mixed martial arts. And then there's that transition. That's the wrestling piece. That was obviously my background, is making it from that striking realm into that contact and putting that guy on the ground. That's that transition skill, and that's where wrestling comes into the sport. Mindset is very, very similar. It's just you. You don't have anybody else to blame. Nobody else to point a finger at. Just you, this guy right here.
How much of that is
boxing is the same.
Yeah.
You're going to get out of it exactly what you put in it. So if you cut corners and if you were lazy in camp, that's probably going to show itself on the fight night, on night. So mentally, it's very, very similar. Now, demographically, it's a bit different. I think if you look at the boxing world, a lot of those guys are inner city kids, and that was their ticket out of the inner city. Was getting in that boxing ring, doing that training. Where are the meccas of boxing? Philly, where things are rough, downtown Philly.
Yeah.
New York City, some of those bigger cities. A lot of them, the best boxers in the world have come from some of those places. Most of those guys didn't have the luxury of a college education, or many of them didn't finish high school, to be honest. Where the demographic in MMA is most of us are college educated guys that never saw the opportunity to be a professional athlete, and through wrestling or whatever our martial art choice was, this was our opportunity to step in there and be a professional athlete, which is a pretty big deal in our society. So demographically, I think there's a difference, but mindset-wise, athlete-wise, athletically, they're very, very similar. And the first mantle I had to pick up as a mixed martial artist and a former wrestler was the striking. The boxing, kickboxing, Muay Thai became one of my favorite styles. Quinton Chong was a world champ, him and his brother Winston, and they trained me a bunch in Muay Thai. It became my favorite style to train in.
So, part of our mission as we develop this podcast and just our Flex's overall mission is people transition is helping those who, when you can't do that thing anymore. Flex had to go through a big transition where all the things he used to could do, Ronnie, all those guys, is that transition. It happens with the athlete. So did you think, or should you think that these athletes should get a mentor? Because it sounds like to me you were clear from your experiences. Do you think there's a need for them to seek out a mentor or a coach for that transition versus going into it by themselves, getting some type of leadership from someone who's
Absolutely. Recognize that you're not alone in your transition. This is what MVP does. It gives you an outlet. There's a lot of other guys that wore one uniform or the other. And it certainly seems a lot easier to get a hold of these guys that wore our military uniform than it is to. There's a certain bravado with the professional athlete. Oh, there's nothing wrong with me. I was in the NFL, and getting them to admit that they're struggling and that they need some help and assistance is very, very difficult. Where our soldiers, it's a lot easier to get through to them, and they'll step right up, even though it goes against our training. To show vulnerability or weakness at all in military training is a big faux pas. So changing that narrative, making it okay to ask for help, making it okay to reach out and find a mentor, somebody who's already been through that transition. That's the best guy to talk to. That's the beauty of MVP, sitting in that huddle after that workout, and you raise your hand and you speak about what you're struggling with right now, and that guy across the map from you says, man, I was there 3 months ago. This is exactly what I did to get through that situation. And this worked for me. Maybe it'll work for you too.
Yeah,
and that could be as simple as finding a good counselor or just coming to MVP and sitting on that mat and letting those demons out. But you have support in that and getting those men and women reconnected to the veteran community in those towns. MVP's in 9 cities now across the country. Creating that outlet, that place to find those mentors, to find those guys that have already navigated that transition. I think that's a huge, very, very important piece of the puzzle.
Yeah, a huge part of Flex's message around is centered around the mental health and actually reaching out to get some support and help you transition. He's also helping us with our aging population. You're not aging, you're maturing. So we won't count you in that category. You're maturing. So one of our concerns that we're trying to address, my profession is healthcare, Medicare.
Okay.
And dealing with the aging the population, because Flex is even helping me to adjust my body. So as I mature in age, I'm able to have a good foundation.
Mm-hmm.
What are your thoughts around seniors staying active? I know you're now officially eligible for Social Security. Don't take it yet. Don't take it yet. But in 3 years, you're eligible for Medicare. I mean, what advice would you have to those that are in their middle to late 60s, even early 70s? What type of regimen that you would recommend that they do, particularly those who have a background in getting exercise?
Man, I think even if it's just going outside and finding a place to go for a walk,
Yeah,
you are in the right direction. And I would recommend doing that barefoot. Get yourself grounded, get your feet dirty. The earth resonates at a very specific frequency that will literally change your blood chemistry and your body at a cellular level by getting out there and getting dirty, getting barefoot. But make it a routine. Just like that purpose when you left whatever that job was, looking for that new purpose, you need to make these things routine. Clean up your eating habits. There's so much crap in our foods.
yeah,
The seed oils, the canola, the fried foods, the graphene, the pesticides, all the other stuff that they're doing to us to kill us and inflame us, literally.
yeah.
Getting outside, getting walking, getting regular exercise in has to be part of your regimen, a part of your routine. A body in motion stays in motion. A body at rest is likely going to stay at rest. So getting your butt up and making yourself do some things is a huge step in the right direction. Cleaning up your eating habits and your diet is a huge step in the right direction.
Well, I know that's really what turned it around for my father. Lost my mother 8 months ago. He's a veteran. He did 40 years. He's Marine in Vietnam, spent his whole life.
Wow. I appreciate his service.
Thank you. His military service. It was kind of interesting. He was going down a not the best of path. But as soon as he did was 2 major things. One, he said, I'm not going to be old and fat. I'm not going to do that. I refuse. But he started watching YouTube and he started walking 3 times a week. So now he's 6 foot tall, 195 pounds. which is not bad for a 77-year-old that's only taking one medication.
That's great. That
So,
is not the norm.
That is not the norm. So I appreciate the input. I'm gonna make sure I share that information with some of our aging populations across the country. Thank you.
You know, Randy, listening to you talk, I don't know if you remember, but I interviewed you a long time ago. We were at an expo, and you came over to my booth, and I interviewed you. But watching you fight, seeing you at the gym occasionally, seeing you at different events around, and all that stuff, sitting here listening to you now, I can understand why you were so successful. I mean, your mental tenacity is just absolutely amazing, and you still carry that mental fortitude now. Did you always have that type of mental strength, that type of drive, or did it come through what?
That's a great question. I think that some of that came shining through my upbringing. I was raised by a single mom, three of us. I was the oldest and only male. So a bunch of the chore list and a bunch of that stuff got handed to me. Mom's working two jobs to make sure we have food and clothes on our back. And I had to step up and handle things at home, delegate to my sisters and get the chore list done before mom came home, or there was going to be hell to pay. And so I think I learned a bunch of that work ethic from her, from my mother. She never missed a game. She was always there. She was the rock for sure. And I think my sisters would probably say the same thing. And then wrestling, walking again, my best friend's brothers put us out in that match for shits and giggles, honestly. And I found the place where I seemed to flourish. Those coaches became hugely important guys in my life. When I needed a kick in the butt, they were the ones to step up and do that. And when I needed some encouragement, they were the ones that did that as well. Wrestling is a very particular mindset. You learn by the numbers. There is no tougher sport on this planet, in my opinion. And that's why it prepared me well for both the Army and for fighting down the road when that opportunity presented itself.
So I have the extreme couture question. Flex and I are both lifelong martial artists also. I used to actually have an MMA center, but I ran more of a family gym versus a fighter gym.
Mm-hmm.
Extreme couture, you do have classes or programs for not recreational purposes, for people not trying to be a pro fighter, correct?
Yes, absolutely. And this is a huge hurdle we had to get over. Everybody looked at us as a fight gym. Oh my God, I'm not going in there. I'll get my ass kicked. And as the sport gained acceptance and it became okay for mom and dad not only to watch it on Spike TV, but then they started going to the MMA gyms that started popping up all over the place. And now once mom and dad are training in that MMA training center, now it's okay to put junior and the kids in those programs to learn gi and no gi, learn some wrestling, learn some striking. We have kids classes. That's been the fastest growing part of our gym in the last 7 or 8 years, has been the kids program.
Awesome.
We started putting family messaging out there, buying space at the theaters in between the movies and commercials and of kids and women and families training at the gym, and kind of overcoming that stigma that we're just a fight gym and you're going to get punched in the grill.
Yeah, I know. I think for me, my discipline came from just martial arts. I started when I was 9 years old. Like you said, you can train with the world's best, have the greatest instructors, but it's just you and that person out there when you get out there. And and just that ability to have that mindset where you train when nobody's watching, get up in the middle of the night and train, and get up early in the morning and training, and taking that same mentality and being able to apply it towards bodybuilding. I think that's what made me so successful. So I really think just martial arts overall is great for kids, especially now because discipline. Unlike when we grew up, we listened to our parents, or else you got to rap on a beat. Hey, it was life. So we listened to our parents, or else we got disciplined. But for me, I mean, I my grandmother raised me. I just did whatever she said because I loved her so much. I respected her so much.
Mhm.
And that's what I try to teach to my kids is, listen, there'll be a day where daddy can't make you do things anymore. You'll just do it out of respect and love. But that discipline, I think, truly comes from my martial arts background. And I think that is one thing that this generation is missing. Just that discipline part, that respectful part, and almost thinking that you're owed something. Like you said, you did chores, or else when you got home, there was a situation that was going to happen.
Yeah.
I remember asking my kids to do chores back when I was competing, and they'd be like, "Why?" You know, or like, "What did I do wrong?"
Yeah. 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 Pulling your own weight. I mean, that's important, certainly for kids to learn that they're part of a family. They need to contribute. They need to be part of that whole scenario and equation for it to work properly. And certainly with a single mom raising three of us, we had to pull our weight. We had to do our fair share. It wasn't going to get done. I had to learn to iron. I had to learn to be able to cook some food and do some things that I wouldn't have otherwise had to learn had the situation been different. And I wouldn't change that for a second. And I think that's why athletics in general are so important for our youth. They teach you to learn, they teach you to lose and to win, both with grace and
Yeah.
integrity. Uh,
Yeah.
they teach you that you're going to get out of it exactly what you put into it. And if you're being lazy or squirrely, you're probably not going to perform very well.
Yeah.
And if you're being dedicated and coming up with a plan, being a student of the game, and paying attention to what the best guys are doing and asking those questions to those same guys, if that's your goal, is to be there, to be at the top of the heap, then that's what you better be doing.
Yeah.
And that
Now,
translates to everything in life, every single thing in life.
yeah. Now, before we got on camera, you were talking about an event that you just had played a role in. Could you tell us a little bit about that? Because I thought that was really impressive, especially with the two people speaking at the end of that.
I just was involved in two events. The first was a charity ride for my foundation, for the Extreme Couture GI Foundation. It's our 5th year doing that up in Washington State, where I grew up. Patrick Crosby helped us organize. He was the program coordinator up there, getting a ride up in the neighborhood in the area where I grew up, which is, I'm proud to be up there. See a bunch of my friends, my mom, my sister, that all still live up there, and raise some funds and some awareness for our wounded combat veterans. I went from there to Calgary. I got asked to make an appearance at a golf tournament and a VIP meet and greet for a foundation called TEPF. And they have been around for 17 years, I believe. They've helped 1.2 million kids at this stage of things find their way into apprenticeship programs in the trades, language skills in school for those kids that can't read or are struggling with that. They help with that. But the biggest thing that they're doing is turning kids on and giving kids opportunities in the trades. Not everybody's cut out for college.
Yeah.
And we were talking a little bit about Mike Rowe. He was the first guy I saw step up and talk about the trades and how many of those skills were going away through his show, Dirty Jobs, because he embedded himself with guys in those trades. Those are dirty jobs that not a lot of people want to do, and frankly, and a lot of those skills are going away. Making that cool again was, I think, a really, really, really unique thing. And not everybody wants to go get a 4-year degree. And that 4-year degree, in a lot of cases, might be as worthless as the paper it's printed on.
In a lot of situations.
Yeah. So I think, our society has kind of pushed something at us. And now I think people are starting to question that. First of all, the cost of these collegiate programs is exorbitant, to say the least. And it appears, from my perspective, that a bunch of these college programs have become indoctrination into a particular mindset that is an issue, in my opinion. So I like the trades. My father was a tradesman. He was a welder his whole life. My wife's father, tradesman. That's what they did, and they made great livings doing it. They were very, very good at what they did. There was a lot of pride in their work and in the
Yeah.
companies they either worked for or started themselves. So I don't think it has to happen with a 4-year degree. I think there's a lot of other options.
Well, we
Yeah.
did some research recently on the AI resistant opportunities. And I have a friend that's a physician that just purchased a franchise with his boys who are handyman, where they're focusing on the HVAC, the plumbing,
Mm-hmm.
those type of opportunities, because those things that, AI can't do that. AI, I don't know about AI going under and yeah. What would you say, Greg? Yeah.
Yet you remember Terminator, right?
Yeah.
I had a question. Do you know who John Staton is? He played
Who?
that plays the transporter.
Jason Statham?
Jason.
Yes, of course I know Jason. I
have
worked
you
with
ever
Jason on all the Expendables. Jason's a great guy.
Have you ever seen?
I think very, very highly of Jason. He's a good man.
So I looked at a younger picture of you, and I put it outside of him, and I'm like, hold on, wait a
I
minute.
could have sent you pictures of us side by side.
I'm like,
You're
hold
just
on.
calling out bald white guys now. What the hell?
I actually put it on side by side. I'm like, man, when he was fighting a little bit lighter, those two guys, yeah, they look similar.
I tease Jason a lot. I get Jason Statham on occasion, and I tease Jason a lot when I see him. I'm like, come on, man, I'll play your big brother in a movie.
People will buy it. They would buy it. I guarantee you they would buy it.
I'd have to come up with a much better British accent, I think.
Yeah.
Well, no, he actually. There's a few movies where he didn't use his accent so much, but yeah, he's
tried,
actor.
but it's hard to cover. What was the one where he actually wore the cowboy hat and he tried to talk with a little bit of a Western accent?
He played a cowboy?
He did in one of his films, and I can't think of the name of the film, but yeah. Well, he was an Olympic caliber diver back in the day, won the Commonwealth Games, I believe, in the high dive. And he took that athleticism and that acrobatic ability, and he's become one of the biggest action stars in film nowadays.
Yeah.
I
think the first movie I ever seen him in, I think it was Snatch. And
Lock, Stock, and Two Smoking Barrels, I think, was one of his very first films with Guy Ritchie.
Yeah, and he didn't show his first couple of movies. He didn't show any martial arts skills. So when he came out in his first movie and showed his fighting skills, like, wait a minute, is this for real?
Yeah.
But and you can actually tell he's an experienced martial artist.
Yeah, he spent a lot of time working on that, and he's very good.
Yeah.
Randy, I have a fight question. This is take you back. If everybody knows the history of Randy Couture and the UFC, he's going through. How many eras did you go through? I mean, you were almost there during the Jorge and Gracie times.
I came in. UFC 13 was my first fight. That was 1997, in the spring of 97. I think we were on the cusp of the sport changing. We were running towards regulation. By the time they didn't sell it, SEG were the original guys, Bob Meyerowitz, Art Davey. They didn't sell it until 2001 to the Fertittas. And that's when Dana White became the president of the organization. It needed some revamping, and they had the skills and the juice basically to do that. Change the face of the sport. We were still looked at as a fringe extreme sport, even though we had come up with unified rules through the help of Larry Hazard in New Jersey. This was before Dana and company had purchased the brand. The unified rules were already in place, but Lorenzo Fertitta was a former athletic commissioner for the state of Nevada, boxing commission, one of the most powerful commissions in the country. So he knew exactly what he was looking at, and he knew exactly what he needed to do to revamp the sport and give it a facelift, basically, and make it more appealing to the general population, to kind of take the extreme feel away from it, now, which was a challenge when you're fighting in a cage. But think of another venue. Where's a safer place than being in that cage to contain athletes in the rules of engagement that we have? There isn't. It's the best place for us. You couldn't do it. It's tough in a ring because you go through the ropes or under the ropes. You couldn't do that in plexiglass. It's going to get smeared with blood and sweat and everything else. I think rubber-coated chain link was actually the way to go. And I know they tested a couple different modalities in the early days.
Well, I know in Pride, a lot of guys went flying through the ropes.
Yeah, Pride did, but and that was first of all, a huge ring. That was a 30-foot ring.
No.
There's no boxing rings that big, and they used cable, not rope, so they could cinch it up really tight. I mean, you would literally bounce off those cables in that ring. So number one, it was a huge ring. Number two, it was a 4-rope cable containment, so it contained better, but still not great. It still happened. You still went through the ropes or got tangled in the ropes, which was a problem.
So
I remember when you were doing commentating after you retired, and you were watching Tim Silva, I think, do a fight, and I remember you announcing.
Talk about.
Yeah, I remember you announcing, like, I think I'm going to come out of retirement, and they're like, "Why?" He goes, I see something, I see something in him. I think I'm gonna come back. Do you remember that?
Oh, I absolutely remember that. Tim was fighting Jeff Munson in Sacramento, and I was commentating that event.
Yeah.
And it had been the Tim and Orlovsky show for about 3 years. They'd gone back and forth. They'd fought 3 times. They knew each other so well that the fights weren't that terribly exciting anymore, because they just knew they knew how to stifle each other, basically.
Yeah.
Munson's a very interesting character anyway. But Tim and Jeff didn't really engage for 5 rounds in a championship fight. It wasn't terribly exciting, to be honest. And I came home from that event, and a week later I was having dinner with a buddy of mine who had been poking me about coming out of retirement and fighting Tim for a year. And I just kept blowing him up. "Oh, you need to fight the giant. Come on, you need to fight the giant." I'm like, "Dude, leave me alone. I'm retired. I'm not fighting anybody. I'm fighting my conscience. That's the only thing I'm fighting." And we had a couple, it was his birthday. We'd had a couple sakis, and he started in on me again about fighting the giant. And I text Dana White. I said, "Man, watching Munson and Tim was like watching paint dry. It wasn't a terribly exciting fight. I could beat either one of those guys." And Dana didn't text me back. He called me immediately. He's like, "Are you serious?" And I'm like, "Yes, I'm serious. I would come out of retirement to fight either one of those guys." And that fight was signed 3 weeks later.
Well, I have a question that's of a different nature. Nowadays, particularly with the aging population and even the youth, those are the ones I really care about a lot, is those that are very young and those that are aging. And can you kind of talk about difficulty, overcoming adversity? I mean, where was a point in your life where it was just really tough to just make it from day to day, or just to overcome those obstacles in terms of your regular life, and then in a fight that you just like, how in the hell am I going to get out of this?
Well, there's certainly been a few of those moments in, I think, anybody's life. And at the end of the day, if everything is handed to you on a silver platter, and you live a life such that you don't have to struggle, you don't have any challenges, you're going to fail to flourish. You're not going to have any character. That's the honest truth. You have to embrace that adversity, those failures, those setbacks, because everybody's going to experience them. I don't care who you are or how good you think you are are going to experience those setbacks. And how you choose to deal with those setbacks is directly correlated to your character. And so you put that in your head when you think about that for a minute. And now the next time you have some adversity, you're going to step right into that. You're actually going to run towards it, because on the other side of that, and as to a person, you dig in and look at the things you've been through, you find out that you have a much more deeper sense of resilience because of those experiences. Those challenges are very, very important to our development as humans. So don't shy away from that stuff. Don't shy away from the loss or the potential loss. Embrace it. If that's how it turns out, that's your opportunity to learn, to come back, to be better. Don't shy away from that stuff. Run to it. Run to that adversity. Embrace those difficulties, because they are going to make you a better person at the end of the day.
That's where growth comes from.
Exactly right.
Yeah. Randy, I just, again, wrapping this up and everything. I appreciate it. I know you're busy. I know you're involved in so many things. I truly, truly appreciate you taking the time out and being a special guest on my Flex for Life podcast. Thank you so much. I'll leave the floor to you if there's any last things that you want to make a statement on.
Headed out tomorrow to Hollywood, Florida, to the Seminole Hard Rock for the last final in the Professional Fighters League Championship on Thursday night on ESPN. I'll be in the broadcast booth with Sean O'Connell and Dan Hardy on Thursday night. It's going to be some great fights. I believe it's the middleweights, light heavyweights, and heavyweights are the 3 title fights coming up. Actually, it might not be the middleweights. It might be the welterweights. But anyway, the big guys. It should be a great show. That's where I'll be on Thursday. Any of y'all out there want to tune in? This may not even be out before then, so it doesn't matter. But
It will be.
It will be. It will be. Great. Randy, again, thank you so much. It's been an honor. It's been an absolute pleasure to interview Captain America. Thank you.
Thank you, Flex. I appreciate you. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you.